Welcome, Sandeep. Sandeep has been a great friend of Zinnov and my personal friend. He had a very interesting career. Started at HCL, worked in the India. He was not, he's always restless. He moved from here to the US. He worked in HCL again, went and opened up the Latin America market for them. Moved to a company called Symphony Teleca, sold the company to Harman, and helped sell Harman to Samsung. Then he could have retired. He didn't want to retire. He took up the president role at Persistent and now CEO of Persistent. What we're going to do in the next 20 minutes is chat about some of the leadership traits which has helped Sandeep to get to where he is. He had a dream career arc to be a CEO of one of the fastest growing public companies in India. How many of you know Persistent Systems here? Okay, all right. So a lot of people know about the company. Whenever we meet with a private equity firm, whenever we meet with a CEO of a mid-sized company, or the stock market analyst, wow, we get tea served. Folks, you have to wait for some more time. Whenever we meet with any of them, the question we get asked is, what is the secret sauce of Persistent System? Why are they the darling of the Indian stock market? You have Sandeep here to explain to us. So what is all this buzz about Persistent Systems right now, Sandeep?
Perfect. So before we go there, I have to tell you the story of how I landed up at Persistent. So one day I get a call from Mr. Pari Natarajan saying that Anand Deshpande, who's the founder chairman of Persistent, is wanting to do some changes. And should I introduce you to him and so on? And that's how I landed at Persistent. So the back channel of the success story of Persistent, there's an invisible hand of Pari there as well.
I wish I got a lot of stocks.
Yeah. So few other things. So guys, you would have seen we changed the format of the thing. So from a coffee chat, it became chai pe charcha. And from a sitting thing, it became a standing session because we saw a number of you were, getting a little bit antsy, wanted tea, whatever. So we thought we'll shake up the crowd a little bit. So that's the reason you see a change in the format as well. And we are not sitting, we're standing. Now, I will use the context of Persistent as a placeholder. And whatever we are going to cover in the next 15 minutes, 15 seconds, is something that any company can take, whether IT services, technology services, whether you're doing oil, soap, whatever business and so on. So just to set the context, 5 years back, Persistent was at $481 million. So April 2019, when we started, March 31, 2019, we were $481 million. We had grown very well over many years since the time we went public in 2010. But the last 2 years from there, we had struggled for growth. Anand, who's our founder, had set up a very good company, and I was lucky to inherit a very strong base, very strong technology base. But the whole challenge was, how do you now commercialize it faster, better than anybody else in the ecosystem? The next 4 or 5 years for us turned out to be from $481 million. Today, we are at a cusp of $1.2 billion. We have grown at 25%, roughly, 24 to be precise, cumulative annual growth rate for the last several years. Just to set the context, just to give you the context, the like-to-like universe is 8%. So we have outperformed on the last 4 to 5 years on an average by 16%. It is a 16 straight sequential quarters of growth for a company in tech services, which if you look at any of the Indian IT services companies, it beats them hands down. So the best one would have been at 12 quarters of growth. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to execute 1 quarter, 2 quarter, 3 quarter, but when you go beyond 16 and hopefully many, many more to come. So that is the story that we will cover in a bit.
So how do you set vision for the company? You have 500 million, you get to 1 billion, they're going to get to 2 billion. And how do you set that vision to get people charged up to go after it?
Sure. So if you look at tech services, and I'm sure nuances are there for every industry, tech services business is a people-centric business. And so is the business for a lot of people here, many of whom are peers to us in the industry, in the room, many of whom are customers. So unless you can basically bring the people together, bring their pride together, bring their passion together, have a North Star goal for them, have a rallying cry to get to that goal, it's not going to happen. So the basic for us was understand what the North Star means. whether it is revenue growth, profitability, and all of that hinges around capability. Why would a customer buy from you? How do you go up the capability curve? How do you get to be known for the best technology capabilities that you bring to bear for a customer, and hence the customer becomes a customer for lifetime. When the customer also moves from one place to the other, he or she becomes another customer, another place, and so on. So that was the starting point. And you won't believe it, that point in time, Persistent had a rating from many people. It was sell, sell, sell. And the person who sent me that report was nobody else than Pari. So first quarter, I am in the company. I am struggling to put things together. And there comes, congratulations, please read this report. And from that sell, 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 we basically got all the people together like this in Goa. This was January of 2020. We painted a picture where we brought all of them together, said, okay, what is your rallying cry? If we have to go from a $500 million mark to a $1 billion mark, what is your contribution? And some of our employees and ex-employees are there in this room as well. Neeraj, raise your hand. True? So that's where, we basically said, and we called it the huddle. A huddle is basically in US parlance. When you play a game, you're getting together, you're planning for it. The plays are planned outside the field, not when you are there. You already know what you will do if this happens and so on. So anyways, there we wrote an article for ourselves, which was basically dated April 21, 2024. And the article's headline, it came in a magazine called Business World, Business Today, and it said, the top guns who won back Persistent the position it deserves. And in that, we talked about our quarter-on-quarter growth. We achieved a quarter-on-quarter growth of 10% for one quarter. We said our stock price zoomed to 2100. We said we became the fastest growing company. 2023, we had beaten all of this. Today, if you look at the company, we have grown 12.9%, 35%, 35%, 14.5%, and we are on track to do something good. So that is the story. So we painted a picture for ourselves, and everyone believed in it. Everyone then took smaller chunks of it to execution, and long story short, we executed impeccably.
So one of the other questions I want to ask you is about your ability to build trust. So if you think about the IT services industry, the growth happens with large deals. So large deals usually you get from an existing customer whom you have worked with, you have built trust, they know you can deliver. That's where people you give large deals. With Sandeep, I found this interesting. Whoever I introduced to Sandeep, they became best friends of Sandeep. So I don't know how it happens. And you're able to win large deals with customers who are new to you. So how do you build trust with people early on?
So look, there are basics of life. If you're authentic, if your say-do ratio is 1, if you're genuinely working to bring value to any relationship, things will happen. So for example, any customer discussion that we used to have, we would hear. Not just hear, we would listen intently. We would try to understand what are the said and unsaid things in the conversation. And then when we went back the next time, we would actually translate that into suggestions. We would not be order takers. We would be actually mini management consultants. In COVID, when nobody knew, including Persistent, we never knew what was coming next. We would actually analyze financials of people, write them a 6-page note like an Amazon 6-page internal memo, saying, we have analyzed your company, your financials, here is where we believe we can add more value. Can we get to talk to you? We sent it to 10 people, 3 people responded. But we won one deal. And every time we went in front of the customer, we were ahead of the curve. If they said something in one meeting, next time when we came, we had 3 more suggestions for them. So it was like that. Similarly for our employees. If our employees, when our stock price started doing well, every town hall they would come and say, hey, you guys are so happy, you say company is doing well, what is in it for us? So we were getting this sense that they basically wanted to participate. We did a 80% inclusive ESOP. That's the most encompassing ESOP in the whole of IT industry, and except for Bank of America, I would say many industries. So it's all about listening, translating that into intent, leading from the front, and showing that you care.
So is that how you build? And one of the things leaders do is, I've seen them hunt in packs, right? You go from one company, go to another company, you bring your entire team, and they go to another company, they bring the entire team. You have done it a little bit different. Right? I've seen you bring some people, but you also seem to work with the team which is already there in the company. How do you balance this?
Yeah, so look, human beings have pride. Everyone has pride in what they do. If you want to take people together with you, you have to understand what drives people. And look, even at Persistent, for example, there was something good. Persistent had grown very well over several years. Anand had set up an impeccable culture, impeccable capability. Now coming in, if you just say, okay, I'm going to change the whole guard, then you're basically saying whatever you're inheriting is bad. That's not right. The first step is to understand what you have. Understand the people. Figure out the North Star, as I said before, what the rallying cry can be. Figure out the gaps, then fill those gaps with people from outside. That's how you take people together. And if people have their skin in the game, if their pride is on the line along with you, your job is easy. So that's how you get down to it.
And in my keynote, I talked about Jensen Young, right, and his day. It almost reminded you of your day. And the other person here is Vijay, my partner. So you guys work like that, focused 24/7. What's your advice to Gen Z who want work-life balance and mental health day?
Yeah. So I would say, look, work-life balance is a very, very personal thing. What works for me may not work for you. What works for you may not work for Vamsi, Vijay, others. Everyone have to figure out their own. And I would rather say it's a work-life harmony. It's not a balance, it's a harmony. What works for you? In my life, what I have done, and I'm sure everyone can take their own leaf, if you find what you're passionate about, you find your job in line with your passion, and then you deliver impeccably in terms of execution, magic happens. Now, if you are in a company, and this stands true for anyone in this, and I also have some people in my own management team, very senior people, the only thing that they want to do is cry. Every day they will find a reason to cry. And if you don't like it, please go. Find yourself another home. If you find a home that is good for you, if you find a home that you absolutely find you belong to, you will thrive. So even for the Gen Z and for anyone, Gen X or whoever else, find your passion. Find a home where you can deliver to that passion and then execute. And the day you lose that, look outside. That would be my 2 cents.
And in sports, there is this thing about winning momentum. We talked to Virat Kohli. Everybody talks about we need to have a winning momentum, and then it drives you. Is that something like that in leadership?
Yeah. So I hear sometimes, so a colleague of mine from my HCL days one day comes to me in a forum like this and says, Kalra Persistent is doing so well. And people come to me and I say, yeah, I know his playbook. It's not about the playbook. It's about the execution. It's about the passion, right? And a lot of time people say, you got lucky. And my answer is, the harder I worked, the luckier I got. So I hope you get the directional answer to what you said.
And also, so what is your advice to budding entrepreneurs? You're in a room of excellent GCC technologies. We are in this wave, AI wave, which is coming in. You are a professional, but also an entrepreneur in some level. Like, what is your advice where people are like itching to get out of the comfort zone, get to the next one?
Yeah. So first is, you said the right thing. Get out of your comfort zones. The moment you're getting into a comfort zone, there's a problem. So even if I look at my own personal journey, I was doing very well. I had won a fairly large deal when I was at HCL Tech. And, I went to my manager and I said, now I want to do something different. My manager actually told me, you're crazy. You're doing so well. Why would you change your role? And I said, that's exactly the problem. Now I don't have too much to learn. So first thing is learn different things. And when you're an entrepreneur, if you think you're getting there, I think it's a little uneasy time. Second thing is perfection is the enemy of execution. You'll never get perfect. Drop. I'm pretty sure I've seen drop from 4-5 years, right? I remember one of the conference meetings where the idea was there to where it is. I'm sure it can be doing better every day. So whatever you have, take it in front of the customers. No better thing for an entrepreneur than being in front of the customer. Customer is the best teacher. And the more you are in front of the customer, the more you are not doing backseat driving, you are in the front seat, taking things in places. The more you are going out of your comfort zones, that's where it is.
So one difficulty there, right? Because when you're working in a large company, you have a plethora of people supporting you. You have a system which works. And what I see is when people go into a smaller company, they don't really know how to operate in that environment, right?
Yeah.
What does it take? How do you switch? You worked at Samsung and Harman, and this is a much smaller company.
Yeah. So I don't think it is something that is here and now. I think people even in the Roman era said this, while in Rome, do as the Romans do, right? So first figure out what the Rome is for. If I applied what I did in HCL Technologies to Symphony Teleca would die. If I took what Symphony Teleca did and took it in Harman, I would die. And similarly in Persistent, there's a context. So understanding the context before you get down to doing things. And second, it is plan, aim, shoot. Please remember, it's not shoot, aim, plan. So directionally, and I am 53 seconds away, so I just want to keep it short.
And the last question, so what does all this AI mean to a tech services company like Persistent?
Yeah, so a wise man in the morning said, tech services model will be an agent-driven model. And I was like, man, I don't have a job. So, but look, I'll tell you, the way I'm looking at tech services, if I am to run Persistent for the next 5 years, 10 years, my North Star would be revenue per employee goes up, cost per employee goes down. We are a platform-driven services company, not just a human-driven services company. And platform enables us to disrupt us first and then the industry. That's where the North Star is. So we'll stop here. We have 10 seconds. We'll give it back to you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sandeep. Great conversation.
Cheers.